Hey, hey, hey! Welcome back to English Flowing, your cozy corner of the internet where you can slow down, breathe, and let English wash over you. I'm Dom.
And I'm Larissa. And if this is your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. You found a very special place.
That's right. This is not just a podcast about English. This is a podcast about life. We talk about real things, feelings, fears, dreams, the stuff that keeps you up at night. And we use beautiful English to do it.
Today's episode is a big one. We're talking about something that nearly every English learner has felt at some point. That tight feeling in your chest when someone speaks to you in English and your mind just goes blank.
The fear of speaking English. We're going there today.
We're going there. And before we do, a quick but very important reminder. If this podcast helps you, if it brings you even a little bit of peace or confidence, please subscribe to the channel. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely means the world to us.
And share this episode with a friend who needs it. You probably know someone right now who is struggling with their English confidence. Send it to them. Be the reason they found this place today.
Today's episode is designed for B1 and B2 learners, intermediate to upper intermediate level. The language is rich, but the sentences are clear. You will understand us. And if you don't catch every single word right away, that's perfectly okay. That's why we have the word tour later in the show.
So grab your coffee, find a comfortable spot, and let's get into this together. Larissa, let me start with a question. When was the first time you remember being truly afraid to speak in a language that wasn't your own?
Oh, Dom, that question brings back a memory so clearly. I was 17 years old. I had just moved to a new city, and I was in an English class at school. The teacher, a very kind woman, honestly, she asked me to read a paragraph out loud.
Okay, that sounds simple enough.
Right? It should have been simple. But the moment she said my name, my heart started pounding. I mean, really pounding, like it wanted to escape from my chest. And when I opened my mouth, my voice shook. I stumbled over words I definitely knew, words I had studied for months.
And the worst part about that kind of moment is that you know the answer. You know the word, but the fear itself gets in the way.
Exactly. The fear becomes its own wall. And I remember finishing that paragraph, sitting down and thinking, I will never speak English in public again. Which, considering what I do for a living now, is pretty funny.
Pretty ironic, right? But I completely get it. I had a similar experience. I was in my early 20s, traveling abroad for the first time. I was at an airport in a country where English was the common language between me and everyone else.
Oh no, I can already feel this.
I needed to ask for directions, a very basic thing, and I stood there for probably 5 minutes just watching people walk by, rehearsing the sentence in my head over and over. Excuse me, could you tell me where gate 14 is? 5 minutes for one sentence.
And did you ask?
I did, and the person answered in about 3 seconds and walked away. That was it. The whole thing lasted 8 seconds, and I had been terrified for 5 minutes beforehand.
And I think that story right there is one of the most important things we can say to our listeners today. The fear almost always costs more than the actual moment. The anticipation of something going wrong is usually so much worse than what actually happens.
There's a phrase in English for this. We'll actually talk about it in the word tour, but people sometimes say that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Because what we imagine happening, people laughing at us, looking stupid, getting every word wrong, it almost never actually happens that way.
Right. In reality, when you speak English imperfectly to a native speaker or even to another learner, most of the time the other person is just happy you're trying. They appreciate the effort.
And this is something that took me a long time to truly understand. Not just know intellectually, but feel in my body. There is a big difference between knowing something in your head and actually believing it.
That's such a good distinction. You can know that making mistakes is normal. You can know that everyone starts as a beginner. But until you've had enough experiences where a mistake happened and the world didn't end, until your nervous system actually learns that it's safe, the fear stays.
Which is why the only real cure for the fear of speaking is, unfortunately, speaking. You can't think your way out of it. You can't watch enough YouTube videos. You have to do the scary thing.
And do it again and again. And slowly, slowly, the fear starts to shrink.
Like a muscle you've never used before. At first, it's painful and awkward and you feel ridiculous. But with every repetition, it gets a little bit stronger, a little bit more natural.
I want to talk about something that I think doesn't get discussed enough, though. And that's the emotional weight that comes with speaking another language. Because when you speak your native language, you have a full personality. You have wit, charm, humor, intelligence.
You can make a joke and it lands perfectly. You can argue your point with confidence. You can tell a beautiful story.
But in a second language, especially when you're still learning, a lot of that gets stripped away. You're suddenly reduced to simple sentences. You can't express all the nuance, all the depth of what you actually think and feel. And that can feel like a kind of loss.
It's like, imagine being a very articulate, intelligent adult, and suddenly you're communicating like a child again. Not because you are less smart, you're not, but because your vocabulary, your toolkit, is still growing.
And I think that experience can be genuinely painful in a way that people underestimate. It can feel like a loss of identity. Like, who am I in this language? Am I boring? Am I less interesting?
And the answer is no, absolutely not. You are every bit as complex, as funny, as intelligent in English as you are in your first language. It just takes time for the language to catch up to who you actually are.
I love the way you phrased that. The language catches up to you, not the other way around.
You don't have to become a lesser version of yourself while you're learning. You're the same full, rich human being. You're just building a new vehicle to express that.
That's a beautiful metaphor, and I'm absolutely stealing it.
Please do. That's what we're here for.
Let's talk about something very practical for a moment, because I don't want this episode to just be inspiring. I want it to be actually useful. What are some real, concrete things that helped you personally push through the fear?
Okay, real talk. The thing that helped me the most, and this might sound strange, was lowering my own expectations. Not giving up, not aiming to be bad, but genuinely releasing the idea that every conversation had to be perfect.
Say more about that.
So I used to approach every English interaction like it was a test, like I had to prove something. And the moment I started treating it more like an experiment, like, let me just try this and see what happens, everything changed. Because you can fail an experiment. An experiment is supposed to have unexpected results. That's the whole point.
That reframe is so powerful, going from performance to experiment.
Exactly. And another thing that helped, and I know this sounds old-fashioned, was talking to myself, out loud, in English, in my room, in my car, in the shower.
Which is something I always recommend too, because the reason many people struggle to speak is that they rarely produce English. They listen, they read, they study grammar, which is all valuable, but speaking is a physical skill. Your mouth, your tongue, your breath, they need practice too.
It sounds funny, but your mouth genuinely needs to learn the shapes of the sounds, the muscle memory. And the more you make those sounds, even alone, the more natural they start to feel.
And then when you're in a real conversation, your mouth already knows what to do. Half the work is already done.
Exactly. The words can come without you having to consciously manufacture them every single time.
I also want to touch on comparison, because I think it's one of the biggest enemies of confidence, not just in language learning, but in life.
Oh, comparison, the thief of joy.
It really is. And in the age of social media, it's everywhere. You see someone speaking fluent, beautiful, natural English with a perfect accent, and you think, why can't I do that? What's wrong with me?
But what you're not seeing is the years behind that fluency, the thousands of awkward conversations, the embarrassing mistakes, the moments of wanting to give up. You see the finished painting. You don't see all the drafts that came before it.
And every single fluent speaker you admire, every single one, went through the exact same fear, the same stumbling, the same I'll never get this moments that you are going through right now.
We talk sometimes about the idea of the iceberg. What you see above the water, someone speaking beautifully, is just the small visible tip. Underneath is this enormous mass of effort, failure, embarrassment, and persistence that nobody talks about.
And I think if we could be more honest about that, if fluent speakers talked more openly about their own struggles, it would help so many learners feel less alone.
which is partly why we make this show. Not to be polished experts looking down at learners, but to be fellow travelers who genuinely remember what the struggle felt like.
And still feel it sometimes. Because even as someone who teaches and talks about English every day, there are still moments in a foreign language where I feel that old familiar knot in my stomach.
It never fully disappears, but it does get much, much smaller, and you get much, much better at walking toward it instead of away from it.
You know, Dom, there's another thing I want to bring up, and it's the role of kindness, specifically being kind to yourself.
Oh, this is important.
I see so many learners, and I've been there myself, who are genuinely cruel to themselves when they make a mistake. They say things to themselves that they would never say to a friend. I'm so stupid. I can't get this. I'll never be good enough.
And would you ever say that to someone you love? If a friend said, I made a mistake in English today, would you say, that's because you're stupid and you'll never improve?
Of course not. I'd say, that's okay. Mistakes are how we learn. You're doing great just by trying. But we don't extend that same grace to ourselves.
There's a psychological concept called self-compassion, the idea that you should treat yourself with the same warmth, patience, and understanding that you would give to a good friend. And research actually shows that people who practice self-compassion often make faster progress in learning new skills because they're not wasting energy on shame and self-criticism.
They can just focus on growing instead of defending against their own inner voice.
Exactly. The inner critic, that voice that says, you're not good enough, you sound ridiculous, everyone is judging you, it's not your friend. It thinks it's protecting you, but really it's holding you back.
And you can talk back to it. You can say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I've got this. I'm going to try anyway. And then you take the step.
I love that. Acknowledge the fear and take the step anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward while the fear is still there.
All right, we've covered a lot of rich ground today, and I think it's the perfect moment to pause the deep conversation and do something very useful for our listeners.
Yes, it's time for the word tour. This is one of our favorite parts of the show.
In the word tour, we go back through the conversation we just had and pick out some key words, phrases, and idioms that came up naturally. We explain what they mean and give you example sentences so you can use them in your own life.
We chose 7 expressions for today, a nice full tour. So let's dive in.
The first expression is go blank. We used it at the beginning when we said someone's mind goes blank. To go blank means that your mind suddenly becomes empty. You forget what you were going to say, or you can't think clearly. It often happens under pressure or when you're nervous.
Example 1. I knew all the answers before the exam, but the moment it started, my mind went blank. Example 2. She was about to give her speech, but when she saw the audience, she went completely blank. This is such a common feeling, and it's very useful to have the words for it.
Our second expression is get in the way. We said that fear gets in the way. To get in the way means to block something, to prevent it from happening. It's a very versatile phrasal verb.
Example 1. He was very talented, but his shyness got in the way of his success. Example 2. Don't let fear get in the way of things you really want to do. You can use this in so many situations: relationships, careers, language learning.
Our third expression is stumble over. I used this when I said I stumbled over words. To stumble over something means to have difficulty saying or doing it smoothly. Like when you're speaking and a word gets caught and you say it awkwardly or incorrectly.
Example 1. He stumbled over the pronunciation of the word, but then tried again calmly. Example 2. She stumbled over her words when she was nervous, but her message was still clear. Notice that stumbling is not failure. It's just a rough moment on the way to the finish line.
Beautifully said. Number 4 is shrink. We said the fear starts to shrink. To shrink means to become smaller. You can use it for physical things. A shirt shrinks in the wash, but we use it here in a more emotional, metaphorical sense.
Example 1. Every time you face something scary, your fear of it begins to shrink a little. Example 2. Her anxiety shrank over time as she got more experience speaking in public. It's a wonderful visual word. You can almost see the fear becoming smaller and smaller. Number 5 is one of my favorites. Reframe. Dom mentioned the idea of reframing a conversation from a performance to an experiment. To reframe something means to look at it from a new, different angle, to change the mental frame around it.
Example 1. Instead of seeing job interviews as judgments, try to reframe them as conversations. Example 2. She reframed her mistakes as valuable lessons, and that changed everything for her. This is a word from psychology, but it's moved into everyday conversation, and it's extremely powerful.
Number 6. The tip of the iceberg. We used the iceberg metaphor to talk about fluency. When you say something is just the tip of the iceberg, you mean that what you can see or know about is only a small part of something much larger that's hidden.
Example 1. The problems they mentioned in the meeting were just the tip of the iceberg. There's much more going on beneath the surface. Example 2. Her accent and vocabulary are impressive, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of all the work she's put in. A very classic English idiom, and one that is used constantly in natural conversation.
And our final expression for today, number 7, is extend grace. Dom and I talked about extending grace to yourself. To extend grace means to give someone kindness, patience, and understanding, especially when they make a mistake or fall short.
Example 1. Even when her student made the same mistake several times, the teacher extended grace and kept encouraging him. Example 2. It's easy to be hard on yourself, but try to extend a little grace when things don't go perfectly. This expression has a warm, almost spiritual quality to it. It's about generosity of spirit.
And it's a quality I think we all need, toward others and toward ourselves.
What a word tour. 7 beautiful, useful expressions. I hope you'll take those with you and start using them. The best way to learn a word is to use it.
Write them down. Make your own sentences. Say them out loud. That's how they move from your notebook to your actual vocabulary, the vocabulary that comes out naturally when you're speaking.
And speaking of natural vocabulary, I want to revisit something before we close. We've been talking about the fear of speaking English, and I want to make sure we leave our listeners with something solid to hold on to.
Yes, not just warmth and inspiration, but something tangible.
So let me offer this. If you are scared to speak English right now, whether you're a learner at B1 level or even more advanced, here is a simple truth. The fear you feel is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that you care, that you want to do this well.
And caring is not a weakness. Caring is the foundation of all meaningful progress.
The fear means you're invested. It means this matters to you. And that energy, that very same nervous energy, when you redirect it, when you walk toward the conversation instead of away from it, it becomes fuel.
I love that. Fear and excitement physiologically feel almost identical. Your heart beats fast, your senses sharpen, your body gets ready. The difference is just the story you tell yourself about it.
So maybe the next time your heart starts to race before an English conversation, instead of saying, "I'm so scared," you can try saying, "I'm so ready." Not because the fear disappears, but because you're choosing to move through it.
I want to share one more thing before we move to the outro, because I think about our listeners a lot. People listening maybe on a bus, or at home at the end of a long day, or early in the morning before work.
People who are using their free time to grow. That's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And I want to acknowledge that learning a language as an adult, while working, while raising families, while managing everything life throws at you, it is genuinely hard. You are not being dramatic. It takes real effort.
And the fact that you're here, that you chose to spend this time with us, practicing your English, thinking about these ideas, that already says something important about who you are.
You are the kind of person who doesn't give up, who looks for growth even when it's uncomfortable. And those people, those are the ones who eventually become fluent. Not because they were born with a gift, but because they kept showing up.
Day after day. Imperfectly, messily, sometimes with a shaky voice and the wrong word, but showing up.
There's a phrase in English, fall down 7 times, get up 8. It means that persistence, not perfection, is what ultimately leads to success.
And in English, or in any language, in any skill, in any area of your life, what separates the people who make it from the people who give up is not talent. It is the willingness to look foolish for long enough to become fluent.
I think that's one of the most honest things we can say. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to be imperfect for as long as it takes.
All right, my friend, we are getting close to the end of today's episode. And I have to say, this was a really meaningful conversation.
It was. It always feels good to talk about the real stuff, not just the textbook stuff.
And that's what English flowing is always going to be. Real conversations, real emotions, real language.
Because language is not just a system of rules. It is how we connect with other human beings. It is how we say, I see you, and I understand you, and I care about what you're going through.
And every word you learn in English is one more thread in that connection, one more way to reach someone, to be understood, to belong somewhere.
That's why it's worth it. Even on the hard days, even when you feel like you're not making progress. You are. The progress is just sometimes invisible, until suddenly, one day, it isn't.
You'll be in a conversation and the words will come, and you'll think, wait, did I just do that? Did I just speak English without panicking?
And you will. I promise you, you will have that moment, and it will feel wonderful.
So don't stop. Keep listening, keep speaking, keep making glorious mistakes.
And keep coming back to English flowing.
Before we say goodbye, we have a very special question for you. Our Comment of the Week invitation.
This is one of the things we love most. We ask you a question, and you answer in the comments. It's a wonderful way to practice your writing in English and also to connect with other learners from around the world.
And this week's question, inspired by everything we talked about today, is this. What is one moment in your life when you pushed through your fear of speaking English, or any fear, and it paid off? Tell us your story.
It doesn't need to be long, even 2 or 3 sentences. Tell us, what were you scared of? What did you do? And what happened? We read every single comment, and we reply.
Your story might be the one that helps someone else find the courage to try. So please, share it. Leave it in the comments below this video, or wherever you're listening to us.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join this community of English flowing listeners who are doing the brave, beautiful work of growing every day.
We will be back very soon with another deep, rich, cozy episode. Until then, take care of yourself. Be patient with yourself. And remember,
You are not behind. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are exactly where you need to be.
keep flowing.
Keep flowing, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Feel free to watch more videos here